What's going on, everybody? I am not Dean 78904. We are the DFS OGs taking over Grinderslive here every Wednesday night. Our first show here. We've been doing football pods for 3 years, but excited to be back in the world of NBA hoops here with my boys, Head Shopper, Notorious. Guys, our first ever NBA show. I can't wait. We get a hell of a slate to start out with. Noto, let's start with you, buddy. I know you've been busy grinding out golf, grinding out the grind down, which is obviously one of the best columns out there. Make sure you guys are reading that every day. But welcome in to this historic first, my man.
Yeah, it's been a busy week in the sports world. That means there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's a good time to be a sports fan, to play some DFS. Haven't done an NBA show for quite some time. So I can't think of two people I'd rather be doing a show with. So yeah, I'm pumped, and let's get it going.
Appreciate that, man. You and I used to do shows way back in the day, in the early beginnings. I was locked away basically in a closet trying to hide from my kids, and here we are years later. But let's bring in Chop. Chop, first NBA show for us. How are you, my man? Welcome in.
Doing good, man. Glad to be here. I see in the chat one thing just caught my eye real quick. It says that we should do this more often. I got some good news for you, man. I got some good news. This is every week. I think every Wednesday we're going to do this. So just to change it up, and I think we're going to get into it more as we go, but this isn't like the typical show, which is good. Those are good. But we're going to try to break away from the norm a little bit and try to get the chat more involved, because the chat is what drives the show. So you guys get ready to interact a lot.
Yeah, and Chop nailed it. You know, we don't want to just sit here and babble for an hour. You know, you gotta deal with our ugly mugs here. Normally we're hidden behind the podcast feed, but we want this show to be about you guys. So YouTube chat, hello, welcome in. Give us that thumbs up button if you want. Not going to sit here and beg for those thumbs up, but we are here to cover the game. But we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about. So tonight we have a monster of a slate, 11 games on the docket. So maybe not as much strategy questions and things that we would like to get to. We're going to have some Wednesdays, like Chop said, we're going to be here every single Wednesday night, 5:30 to 6:30, and we'll get a lot more strategy talk on some of those smaller slates. Tonight, we got to get right into things here, guys. So, again, if you guys have questions, get them in there. I'll do my best to keep up with them. If we miss you, stay patient. Going to try to get to as many questions as we can. We're going to give you some of our favorite plays, some of our guys we're avoiding. We're going to talk about some of the chalk on this slate and favorite bets. So, kind of like we do in the OGs pod, try to hit a little bit of everything. So, guys, let's kind of take an overview here. 11 games, and I know you guys kind of play different things. Chop, we know you're the $1 million man. Ted DiBiase, you're out there grinding those big GPPs. Noto, more of the cash game and, you know, the single entry 3-man type of stuff. So let's just quickly start with how do you handle it any differently? 11 games in a normal, say, 5 to 7 game slate. So, Chop, how are you kind of attacking this? Give you a kind of 10,000 foot view here on tonight's slate.
Man, yeah, there's a lot you could go into, but, you know, yeah, I'll play some GPPs, sure. And, you know, I'll definitely fire away on Fanduel tonight. But to be honest with you, every slate is different. Every slate is like tonight, 11 games. It's different because we're doing a show, and when we get off, we're only have 30 minutes to prep for it. So it's a little bit different. But on 11 games, typically, man, I might pump the brakes on some of the GPPs and go with more cash games because, man, 11 games, 22 teams going, you're going to have some weird scores, some really high scores, win GPPs. And it's really tough to bust out in cash games with this many. So I like a bigger slate like this. I may go for cash games. But my man Corey in here in chat, he says, balanced. Is that the way to go in cash? No. Right offhand, I'd say no, it's slate dependent. But a night like tonight, 11 games, I'm looking to jam in some superstars because there's always going to be scrubs who get you 15 to 20, even on a poor night. And, you know, you want those big numbers to be put up. But every slate is different, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And you nailed it. Every slate is different. It's hard to answer those. Is it a night to do this, or do you win a GPP doing this? Every slate brings its different challenges. Sometimes you're going to have value. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes there's going to be high end guys that just want to lock in. Guys like Kawhi last night. So really slate dependent. But we're here to break this baby down. Noto, same question to you. How are you handling a bigger slate like this? I know it's been a lot of work on your end for the grind down, but as far as playing and getting our lineups and everybody in the chat and everybody watching squared away, how are you kind of attacking the slate tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been an MME player for basketball. I've just found it's too hard for me to, adjust all my exposures right before lock, especially when there's a lot of news that seems to be happening more and more this season than ever. So typically my sweet spot is like 6 to 8 games. That way you have, enough options to choose from, but you don't have too many where you feel a little overwhelmed. And tonight, 11 games. So there's going to be a ton of good plays that we can get to. I like to build one lineup per site and then kind of enter that into everything, mostly just single entry GPP. So I think we have a nice mix of, smaller entry field, large entry field, and some cash game talk here. So I think it's a good mix. And like Chop mentioned, I think every slate is unique, and you just kind of have to build the puzzle with the pieces that we're given.
Absolutely. We got an EMAC sighting. Another OG goes way back in the day. So Chop, he called you out. He gave me a note, the little wink, the little high, but always good to see our good pal EMAC out in the chat. So welcome into him. So not gonna do the body parts thing. That's Dean's thing. I think there's a few major injuries that we want to keep an eye on. Mainly Christian Wood, questionable guys. So hit on that real quick, Chop. How does that affect things? Tough game there in Indiana. Does that lead you to more James Harden here? What are we doing here with this Christian Wood situation?
Just watching the Rockets so far this year. I mean, I'm sure that if that news were to hit that he's out, somebody on the front line, maybe DeMarcus Cousins, who's struggling to get a grip on things, but it hadn't really all been his fault so far. Maybe Cousins gets a bump, but those other guys probably don't do it for me. So I'll see how I feel when it happens. But if it were to happen, I think DeMarcus Cousins, who got hit with COVID, got ejected from a game, but he hasn't looked bad otherwise when he's out there. So maybe he gets extra run. Maybe he's the guy. But I'm not touching a PJ Tucker or somebody like that just because Christian Wood is out.
Yeah, I think the big worry with Cousins is the minutes. They really haven't wanted to unleash him. Maybe they're forced to here. Maybe it's a gradual thing. But Noto, same question to you. Christian Wood, how are you handling this situation?
Yeah, I mean, if he's out, I just don't know who I'd really go to. You mentioned DeMarcus Cousins hasn't played more than 14 minutes all season. PJ Tucker, I've rostered far too much PJ Tucker in my DFS days. He can get there for sure, but he can also go play 40 minutes and get 4 fantasy points. So in a slate like this, I don't think we need to go to PJ Tucker. The big injury for me, we saw that Kawhi Leonard not on the injury report. He hasn't played a back-to-back since 2017. And given the fact that, Paul George is questionable, I kind of assume that he's going to be out again. I just don't see them, changing their mind on what they want to do with Kawhi unless they think Paul George is going to be out. So do you guys have a take on that situation? Because if George is out again, then a ton of value opens up on the Clippers.
Yeah, that was the next spot we were going to stop at. The Clippers, obviously, a big question mark here, not knowing the status. A lot of guys are popping in the projection models in the ownership department as well. You're going to see a lot of Luke Kennard, Nicholas Batum coming off that big game. So, Chop, how are you handling the Clippers situation here with us being in flux right now?
Well, it's tough. What makes it so tough is that it's a 9:00 game, one of the late games tonight. So you're going to have to rework everything if that news does hit. Right now, all the information seems to be pointing Kawhi playing back-to-backs and Paul George being highly questionable. So we look at last night, exactly what happened. And Kawhi had a good game. Well, we expect that. Batum had a really good game. I didn't expect him to have that kind of upside. I don't know if I'd chase that or not because you're going to need some roster spots open at that time to have that happen. So I think I'm just building, assuming Kawhi is in, and I'm just going to assume Paul George is in. And if I don't get, and I won't play Paul George. Let's say I won't X him out, but I won't bump everybody up as if he's X'd out. So if I have a spot open later and the news breaks, that's fine. But I'm not going to go out of my way to leave spots open when there's only going to be 2 games left on the board.
All right, let's stay with you, Chop. I got a good question here from Angry Vic in the chat. He says, how far do you condense your player pool on a night like tonight? I know you kind of hit on it, but he said, I'm trying to have conviction, but there's so many plays, so many teams. He's playing a DK 20 max GPP. So just a roundabout number. We just said every slate is different, but how far are you trying to condense that player pool down on a night like tonight?
Tonight, I try to, I mean, right now I'm sitting at 70 players, just on Draftkings. It's a little bit easier on Fanduel. That's why I like Fanduel a little on situations like, because it's position by position. So then I can get down there and just really start whittling point guard down to like 5 or 5 or 6. Cause then I'll say, I absolutely will not play this guy. So I might as well X him out, but on Draftkings, multi-position eligibility and all the other stuff that goes, I'm down to 70, and I'll try to condense it a little bit more, but 22 teams playing, you've got to keep your stars in there. You've got value guys that are going to help you get stars. So it's tough to narrow it down too far right now.
Noto, let's go to you. Same question. I'm going to add another one for Mike T. How do we set our lineups to take advantage of late news like the Clippers game?
Yeah, so in terms of narrowing down my player pool, with me only making one lineup, I don't really have a choice. So I got 9 guys on FanDuel and 8 on DraftKings. As far as taking advantage of, the late news, if Paul George is still questionable by the time, the 6:30 p.m. games or 7:30 p.m. games tip off, you're going to get a lot of guys lower exposure in the Clippers than we would have if he would have get ruled out a lot before that. So I would keep some options open. We could look to the Bulls for some value if both Kawhi and George end up playing. You could definitely look to the Bulls, maybe even the Kings. Halliburton's currently questionable as well. So definitely keep some swaps in mind. But I do want to take advantage of that because I have a feeling that one of them is going to be out, and I think it's going to be George.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Otherwise, we'd see Kawhi. The NBA has those new rules about you can't miss nationally televised games. So they would have to list him with some kind of injury. So for him not to be on the injury list as of right now kind of gives an indication, in my opinion, that he's going to play. So I think they do hold George out again. But just being ready to make those swaps, I think, is very important. So other injuries, just some minor stuff. Jeff Teague remains questionable for Boston. We saw Killian Hayes injured in Detroit. So that could lead to more Derrick Rose minutes. Josh Jackson remains questionable, but he's expected to play. But a lot of minor stuff that we'll kind of hit on as it goes throughout the show. So we're going to go position by position here. We're going to switch it up every time. Again, when we have lighter slates, we can answer a lot more questions, spend time on strategy. We're still going to try to get to as many questions and keep this as interactive as possible. But Chop, let's dive in at the point guard position. We're pretty loaded up here. Like always. So we don't want to sit here and talk about every single guy. We want to keep things moving. So who are some of your favorite guys? Maybe some guys you're avoiding here at the point guard position.
I'm starting it off with Malcolm Brogdon. He's the guy I'm going to try to jam in as much as I can tonight. I really love what he's doing with TJ Warren being out of the lineup now. He's assuming a bigger responsibility in a lot of different categories, and he's putting up monster numbers. Great matchup against Houston. He's going to get to go up against Harden and John Wall. Those guys don't play much defense. I really like Malcolm Brogdon quite a bit tonight, and I like the Pacers in general. And we'll talk about that more later, but I like Brogdon to start off things if I can get him in there. Price is $8,000 on DraftKings. It's okay. It's not too bad. I wish it was a little bit lower, but we're all good there. And then I'm looking at a guy like De'Aaron Fox. I think he's a little bit too cheap on both sides, especially on FanDuel. But the matchup against Chicago, again, I'm looking to go up against defensive point guards like Zach LaVine and Kobe White trying to guard this guy. I mean, I put my money on De'Aaron Fox, man. So, I guess you can kind of tell that a lot of my teams will center around a more, balanced build with guys like Fox and Brogdon and not reaching up for the James Harden or Steph Currys as much. But in cash games, well, we can talk about that more later, but in the tournaments, I like that balanced build on a night like tonight.
All right, Noto, let's go over to you. Same question, point guards, some of your favorites, anybody you're avoiding here. What's your outlook here on the position?
All right, I'll give a site-specific answer, one guy each. I really like Ben Simmons over on Fanduel. One of the faster paced games of the slate that we can expect. Great matchup against the Wizards. If you look at his numbers, he's had double-digit rebounds in 4 straight games. His rebounding percentage is up like 5% this season. We always know he can fill up the stat sheet, and he should be able to get to the rim in this matchup. So really like Ben Simmons over there. I don't think he breaks the bank at what is 8.7. And then on DraftKings, I'm going to LaMelo Ball. Great matchup against the Hawks. We're seeing him play more and more minutes off the bench. He can fill up the stat sheet. And, unlike his brother, he's not shy. He's playing aggressive pretty much whenever he's out there. We've seen Devontae Graham really struggle this season, and that's led to more minutes for Ball.
Yeah, I like all those calls. Chop, I know you like Malcolm Brogdon. We want to thank our sponsor here, Monkey Knife Fight. We'll get to some of our plays as we go throughout the show. But hint, Chop's pretty high on that game there, Indiana and Houston. So I believe we're going to go to our boy SPK. Is that true, Devin? We're going to bring him in and not here yet. All right.
Shaking my head. He's taking a nap with Janino.
he forgot about us. He didn't want to come hang out with the OGs. So he'll be joining us to kind of go over some projection stuff, some things, the what if projections, some of the good stuff we've added this year on Rotogrinders. So any other takes on the point guard position here? I'm going to scroll through the chat. Are you guys ready to move on?
I got one quick take here. We got a guy in chat. His name is Dean Shavelson. He's asking why I'm scooping his head to heads. Hey man, I got to put food on the table, and I'm looking for easy targets. So I see a guy named Dean and a guy named Mangone, and I'm just taking them all, man. I mean, otherwise these guys wouldn't play me.
That's easy money, man. Chop's just printing money over there, picking up them Dean 78904 head to head. So keep throwing those out there. I may scoop up a few of those as well, Dino. So let's move on to the shooting guard position here. And Noto, we'll start with you here first. Obviously, James Harden, a guy that you can spend up on. Are you spending? Are you finding some value here? Are you sticking there in the mid-range?
Oh, man, the big question for me, at least on FanDuel, is what to do with Buddy Hield. He has been so bad, and he is so cheap. Great matchup at home against the Bulls. The Bulls playing at a really fast pace, one of the worst defensive teams in terms of defensive rating, defensive efficiency so far. So wanted to get your take on him. One of the under-the-radar guys I kind of like is Colin Sexton. We know the Cavaliers without Darius Garland. They got a bunch of other injuries as well. No Dante Exum. It's not the best matchup by any means, but he's capable of playing 40 minutes. I think he's going to have increased usage. His efficiency numbers are down a little bit so far this season, but if he can recoup those, I think he's a really good option if he plays 40-plus minutes against the Magic.
It's funny you bring those two names up. My first rendition of my FanDuel lineup has those two guys. I mean, I absolutely love Colin Sexton here. You mentioned it, the matchup. Not ideal with Orlando. I mean, we're generally not a team we want to go out our way to target, but I do like the spot. Without Garland, he's going to have to do some of the heavy lifting. We know Kevin Love is out there as well, remains on the shelf. So I do like him. And Buddy Hield, I mean, he's finally playing minutes. So hasn't been very productive with those minutes, but he's a guy I'm going to continue to try to not shovel money into the fireplace with, but continue to roll him out there. So Chop, thoughts on those two guys and anyone else you want to add to the player pool here for shooting guard?
Oh, I'm always a Buddy Hyde guy, man. I love me some Buddy Hyde, so I like that. And it's all good. Colin Sexton was a guy I actually, when that news broke that Garland was out the other night, I was like, oh, Colin Sexton, yeah. I just didn't quite get him in there. Lucky for me because he didn't have a good game, but I fully expect him to have a good game or have multiple good games as long as Garland is out. So Colin Sexton's fine too. Staying in my mid-range build, I like a guy like Donovan Mitchell, and going into Madison Square Garden taking on the Knicks. I can live with that. So he'd be my mid-range guy. I can tell you that after that, I may try to save some money at the position and go down and, we'll see how the Paul George news plays out. But if he's out, maybe I could put a Kawhi Leonard in there. If I'm trying to save money in cash games, Dante DiVincenzo with Pat Connaughton out. Maybe that's he's not going to set the world on fire, but if he gets you 25 points for a cheap price tag, you're in good shape. The one thing that makes me want to go mid-range and lower at shooting guard is James Harden is a fade for me right now. That's my guy. That's my team. But, man, he looks out of sync with John Wall in that lineup. So, James Harden, I don't have to spend up at this position at all.
Yeah, and I actually like a guy on the other side of that game, Victor Oladipo, playing very well. Anytime Houston's on the slate, I want exposure to that. And, it kind of eased them back in last season, but he's back. He's playing big minutes. I know you like Brogdon. I don't hate that one. I think both are in play here against Houston. So give me some Victor Oladipo here as well. Noto, any more shooting guards here? Anyone maybe we're avoiding? Doesn't look like there's a ton of chalk at this position. I know early on in the day, Luke Kennard was looking to be super chalky, but it's kind of balanced out here. So normally on 11-game slate, you're not going to have a ton of chalk, but anyone else you want to add, anyone you're avoiding at shooting guard position?
I'm glad you brought up Oladipo. He's a guy that, came off that injury last year, kind of struggled to get going. I mean, he would look good at times and then, bad at other times, but he's just off to such a great start so far this season. Really like him on Draftkings at a price of $7K. So I'm glad you brought him up. And yeah, man, it's been a long time since I've done these shows, trying to keep up with these chats and the questions. It's a lot of fun. So I got to get used to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, trying to set, we sit back, and I know Chop does some of these shows, but normally I'm sitting back and making lineups and not doing 10 things at once besides the kids, the wife, handling all that. But it is a lot of fun. We are keeping an eye on the situation with Washington as well. There obviously everything going on in the Capitol. We're not going to talk politics and all that, but there has been some discussions if that game is going to be played. As of now, things are all good to go there with Philadelphia and Washington. So anything changes, you guys see any updates on that, jump in and let me know. But as of now, we have all the games scheduled to go on here. So we've got a question from Mari Don Yeezy. Our favorite value plays. We'll get to that. We'll hit on some of our favorite value plays and things moving on towards the end of the show. We're moving on to small forward, and we got a question here. So we'll start with that from Mike Gray. Chop, will go to you. Thoughts on Deandre Hunter for $5,400 and $19 over Basley on Yahoo. He keeps crushing at a low price. So let's talk Hawks. Let's talk Deandre Hunter, a team we expected to be improved. Obviously, Trae Young, the headliner there, but some of these other guys getting it done. What do you think of Hunter tonight?
Yeah, Hunter, like the price tag's creeping up just a little bit on DraftKings. I get it. But he gets disrespected almost every game with the ownership. Like nobody wants to play the guy. He's really good. I had to do a 180 on him because coming out of school, I didn't really think he would put up these kind of fantasy numbers already, but he is. So you got to keep riding it. He's doing real well, and I like him. And Basley is a guy that. Yeah, I saw him in the bubble last year. When I saw him in the bubble and he was getting an opportunity, I was like, whoa, this kid can ball. He can put up some fantasy stats. So I was eyeballing him coming into this year, and sure enough, he's delivering on it. He keeps on producing. Why not fire him up some more? It's a perfectly fine matchup. I like both those guys.
All right, any other small forwards you want to add? We'll just switch positions here, dive into that spot.
Yeah, those are two good ones because they save you a little bit of money. Again, up at the top, I'm not really looking to jam in Kawhi Leonard with the unknown, so I don't need that. Jason Tatum, he's small forward eligibility on DraftKings. He's okay, I guess. But a guy who's having a good year, Tobias Harris. Sixers in general having a good year. Tobias has taken on a little bit more of a role. What Tobias is doing is actually – shout out to Zazzy, man, my boy Zazzy, the Philly fan. He told me the other day, he's like, man, they're going to run Tobias Harris with the second unit more, and it's going to open up a ton more usage and opportunity for him. Sure enough, he's putting up some good numbers. So Tobias Harris is on the radar, and if I want to go down and save a little money, just a little bit lower than mid range. Otto Porter's having a pretty good year, so Otto Porter with this matchup, Chicago Sacramento is a game I want to target in general. So I like that.
Yeah, that's definitely. We brought up Kobe White as well, so I'll be putting a few balls in a lot of my lineups tonight. I like that Otto Porter call. He's put some big games on the board. Now he can definitely disappear. We know that, but huge upside. And only took us 20 minutes to get a Zazzy in here, so we're bringing everything over from the pod. Big Philly fan, so shout out to him. We won't call him out on his Eagles. You know what? It's crap in the bed there and causing the Giants to have to sit home, but. We'll stick with basketball here for tonight. So, Noto, let's go over to you. Small forward. Thoughts on Deandre Hunter? We had that question on him. And any other small forwards you're looking at here tonight?
Yeah, Deandre Hunter is one of those guys that I didn't really realize how well he was playing until I kind of looked into him a little bit more this morning. The only concern I have, I mean, he's shooting the ball very well right now. 53% from the field, 49% from three. His true shooting is up a ton from last season. We kind of expect that a little bit, but that's my only concern with him. Still a good price point. You can fill up the stat sheet, good matchup playing at home. So no issue there. I like RJ Barrett a little bit over on Fanduel. You know, the Jazz playing in the second half of a back-to-back. They didn't look great last night either against the Nets. And he's a guy that can fill up the stat sheet. His assist rate's up. His rebounding percentage is up as well in his second year. So I don't mind that. And then Jason Tatum, I know the matchup stuff. We typically want to avoid guys against the Heat, especially in Miami. But, I mean, he's just been awesome. He's filling up the stat sheet. Pretty much every one of his rates that you want to see go up has gone up this year. The Celtics are, shorthanded. So I like him quite a bit if you are spending up.
Yeah, I mean, RJ Barrett, now you're talking to the sports card guy to me, and I'm not as involved here as Chop, but he was a guy that early on, I thought would have a big sophomore season. So far, so good. You've seen him in the six-pack video a few times, so not so sure I want to go there today, but in a tough matchup. But Chop, I know you're a big RJ Barrett guy, so you want to talk cards? You want to talk tonight's slate? Whatever it is, what are your thoughts here on RJ Barrett?
I'm stocked up on the RJ Barrett rookies. I'm good to go. But I actually, it's not like he's this super sexy player, but the Knicks in general, I think, let me see here. Yeah, Noel's just got ruled out. They're already playing a ton of minutes, and they may go up even more minutes. They may get a couple more minutes tonight spread along that front court. Like, it's super safe. It's a tough matchup, but all those Knicks are very, very safe because you're going to play about 40 minutes if this game stays competitive. So I'm good to go with those.
All right, Chop, let's stay with you. We got a question and in the chat from Beatboss said, any Cedi Osman shares? And I don't know if he meant cards or lineups, but what are you doing with Osman coming off that massive game? I know it's going to drive some ownership. Are you going back to the well there?
No, I'm not. I don't have any Cedi sports card rookies, and I don't have any shares tonight. That's just it was a good game, but I can't put much stock into that. I gotta fade that.
All right, no, we got a question from our boy Alex Santi in the chat. Minutes projection on Kawhi if Paul George sits. I know you're part of the projections team, so I don't need it down to the second, but what do you think there?
Yeah, shout out to Santi. He does some content for us. That is a tough question to answer. It's not like we have anything to rely on. Kawhi hasn't played a back-to-back since 2017. So I don't know. I mean, he played 37 last night in a game that came down to the wire. They were trailing for most of that game, made that big push late. I can't imagine he'd play more than 32 to 34, but I don't really know. Do you guys have a strong take? And what are all the woofs in the chat about?
That's what I'm on. I think these Chop, you're more plugged into the Grinderslive world and hanging out with Dean. So what are they woofing us for?
Somebody's woofing something. I don't know. Who knows? There ain't no telling what's going on. But yeah, Kawhi Leonard, you mentioned something earlier, and then that's when it hit me. Like, yeah, Paul George is going to sit out tonight, right? Otherwise, why would they be so vocal in announcing that Kawhi Leonard is not going to sit out? Like, they don't want to play on both tonight. That one of them was going to rest. So this is kind of leading us to Paul George sitting. So, but I'm with Derek. Like, how can you project that on a back-to-back when he played last night and played all the way to the very end, took the last shot of the game? So that's a tough one right there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, one more question here at small forward from Daryl Hodgkins. What about Kelly Oubre, 5,300? Says it feels a little bit too cheap on FanDuel.
If you're asking me,
whoever wants it, whoever wants Kelly Oubre,
he's probably a nice safe option. I don't know if the upside's there, but he's a nice safe option. I mean, you don't have to X him out of your player pool.
No, any thoughts, sir?
So I believe he played the first 3 games of the season without making anything other than a dunk or a layup, which is one of the crazier stats that I've seen so far in this season. But hey, he's turning it around. He made 4 threes last night, so he only had 2 all season before that. He seems to be turning around. He is a guy that can fill up the stat sheet on FanDuel. We like those blocks and steals, and I like that game environment. Clippers on the back-to-back, maybe shorthanded. Yeah, I like him.
Hey, he's got the dunk of the year, in my opinion. I mean, that was something else there. And to throw it down, who did he dunked on? Durant, didn't he? I mean, that was a monster dunk early in the year. So Let's take a look at our sponsor, Monkey Knife Fight. We mentioned them, so we've each picked out a few of our favorite promos or our favorite combinations there on Monkey Knife Fight, and you guys get 100% deposit bonus up to $50. Use promo code Grinders. So Devin will throw that in the chat if you want to click that. It's a fun site. I know props are kind of growing in popularity, so just a different way to play DFS, and I think there's a lot of edge in that game. So. You guys want to talk about your props here before we move on? So give out some winners here, Chop. What do you got?
The winners, I guess the graphics up now. Man, yeah, I can't see the graphic, but I think I took James Harden and Malcolm Brogdon over those points. Now, James Harden, I think it was 29.5 real life points and threes. I think it's common. Like James Harden his rebounds are down this year. They're down like two rebounds per game over the past few years because I'm guessing because, well, they got a few minutes out of Cousins and Christian Wood in there. So he's not rebounding quite as well, but he's still scoring pretty high. So I think that's definitely a makeable goal right there. And then Malcolm Brogdon, I think he's going to have a good game. I don't think he's going to have any problem. He's shooting threes. If he hits them, the threes are going to lead to big points. That combination, I think he should surpass that with ease.
JJ asks, is Monkey Knife Fight legal in Massachusetts? I'm not sure. I think you can check the site. There's usually says what states you can play in or not. If anything, try to sign up, use the promo code, and if you can't play, they're going to tell you no. So, Noto, what's your Monkey Knife Fight play of the night?
Yeah, I mean, Chop and I have been on the opposite sides of quite a few bets so far this week. Usually we're on the same page, but we had some different NFL bets as well. And honestly, hey, Harden can get that 30 points as long as he doesn't do anything else. I have him under 53.5 fantasy points. With Wall in the lineup, he scored 46 and 55. And, this was before we knew anything about Christian Wood. So if Wood's out, that would obviously help Harden. But so I got under that, and then I got the over for Giannis at 53.5 and the over for Joel Embiid, who I think is just going to smash at home against the Wizards.
All right, we'll go through mine real quick. Did a 3 all day, all play. I'm going to go under the rebounds on Rudy Gobert. The Knicks actually in the top 10 are rebounding differential, so I'll go under there. Steph Curry, under 30.5 points. I know he's been on fire. I know it's been a hot topic. We didn't even really talk much Steph Curry in the point guard section, but I think they can hold him down. Patrick Beverley, not the elite defender he was back in the day, but still pretty good. And then I'll go also under the assist for Trae Young, under 10.5. He's really only crossed that number twice this entire season. So been under that more often than he's gone over. So a bunch of unders for me here today. So let's move on, guys. Power forward up next. Noto, we'll start with you again. Favorite plays, guys, you're avoiding. Who's in the player pool at power forward?
All right, before I get there, I just want to touch on one quick injury note. It looks like Evan Fournier is not in the starting lineup, so you have to assume that he's unlikely to play tonight. And Michael Carter-Williams also already been ruled out, so that's got to be good news for Markelle Fultz. And Terrence Ross has just been crushing off the bench, so I think you can give both those guys a boost.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, some injuries there. Ross is intriguing, a guy that's very scoring dependent, but a guy that has a big ceiling here as well. So, Chop, any thoughts on that Fournier news here for the Magic?
Nah, I'm gonna play it the same way I did the other day, which is gives a boost to Aaron Gordon for me, and maybe a little bit of Vooch. But those other guys, like, I'm not chasing Dwayne Bacon anymore, man. He's terrible. So that's about it.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that plays a lot of minutes, doesn't get a lot done. So I like Vooch here. I think you're going to see Drummond be pretty popular here tonight. So I don't hate pivoting to Vooch, even Markelle Fultz, a guy you can play there in that situation as well. So power forward, Noto, let's go back to that spot here. And who are we looking at?
I've already seen his name get brought up a few times in the chat, but Kelly Olynyk, every time he becomes popular, he just puts up a big dud. But hey, he's 4,400. He's played at least 27 minutes in 3 straight games. The issue with him throughout his career has been that, he's just been a guy off the bench that typically sees anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. But he's been starting and he's been playing pretty well. You got the revenge narrative as well. We like a good narrative here with the OGs. So at 4.4K on DraftKings, I don't mind going there. Sabonis is probably going to be the top spend on the board. Really good matchup for him. against Houston, who could be without Christian Wood, like we mentioned. Sabonis, just one of those guys, instant double-double machine. He can give you some assists and peripheral stats as well. So those would be the two guys I go to. And then Batum, again, if we think George is going to be out or if we think Kawhi is going to be out, I kind of assume one's going to play, one's going to sit. Then you got to think Batum's going to be in there for 35-plus minutes in a really good matchup against the Warriors. And his efficiency has been off the charts. I don't expect him to sustain that moving forward. But still, if he's going to be out there 30 minutes in a good matchup, I'll take some Batum as well.
Yeah, Kelly O kind of climbing the ownership department here. A little peek behind things. He's up to the third highest power forward ownership on DraftKings right now. So Chop, thoughts on Kelly Olynyk for some value? Looks like PJ Washington going to be chalk here, a little underpriced at 5K. So thoughts there and the rest of the power forward position.
Kelly Olynyk, I think, is an elite cash game play tonight. That price tag, those minutes he's playing, I think he's great for cash games. Tournaments, probably not a guy I need. We've seen him erupt for like 50 before he gets super hot from three-point line, but I mean, I can trust that maybe he's not going to do that tonight, so I'm good with that. And Saboner, I was going to say Saboner too, man. I love that. I love the matchup. I love the guy's game and everything. So I'm on that. But strictly GPP play, Aaron Gordon. You know, the minutes, 28 minutes a game the last two games. He's got every minute he's out there, he's really productive usually. So I can trust that in this matchup, he can put up another good game. So I'll go with that. Pascal Siakam, why not? I think actually this is a really good game environment against Phoenix, who is turned out to be a really good. So I don't know what they found in the bubble last year, but they did something, and now they're just a really good team. So I don't see this game being a blowout either way. This time last year, we would have thought Toronto, maybe a blowout. Maybe you can't play these guys. Now it's going to be a competitive game. So Siakam is sitting there coming back off his benching a couple games ago. I think he has a good chance in that mid-range to put up a good number. And one more guy for tournaments, won't play him in cash, but for tournaments, Zion Williamson seems to have found his legs these past couple games. And when he's on his game, he can be really explosive in DFS and still sitting under 8K on DraftKings. I like a little Zion tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto has just been a mess. It's been surprising how bad they've been. So I don't mind the Siakam call there. Chop, we'll stay with you here. I had a question from Matthew Kaplan. Asked about DK Cash. Gordon Hayward is power forward eligible over there. He wants to know if he's playable in cash games on DraftKings.
Man, I wouldn't do it. Only if, I mean, I get it. 7,400s. Now you're not saving very much. And all I got to do is look at, I mean, game logs. People really hate to watch. The nerds really hate when I look at the game logs. I'll say that. But all I got to do is look at the game log and see a bunch of like duds he's put up. Kind of want a little bit more consistency. I know he has upside. I kind of want a little bit of consistency at 7,400, man. I think we could do better. So I'm going to say if I could muscle up another 300, I can get a pretty good amount of minutes out of Tobias Harris, who's been pretty productive. So I think there's other ways to go rather than Gordon Hayward, who has put up some real duds lately.
Or you get up to the Saboner. People liking that in chat. So if you guys are liking the show here, give that thumbs up button, a hit, a smash, whatever you want to call it. We're super excited to be here every Wednesday night talking NBA. Noto, let's go to you, buddy. Any more power forward plays? Anything standing out at that position?
No more power forward plays for me, but I always want to say smash that like button. So yeah,
there you go.
Go for it.
Smash it. Keep the apple juice cold. Is that what our boy says in the morning? So whatever you got to do, but we appreciate the support. All right, let's move on to center. We'll wrap up our plays. We'll give you some of our favorite bets, and then we'll try to hammer out some more of these questions. So if you guys got questions, I'll get them in there. I'll do my best to keep up with them. So no, center spot. I know you're a big Joel Embiid guy. Are we locking him in tonight, or are you finding some value here?
Oh man, I wish they'd make a site where you just roster centers. It's always my favorite position. I mean, every single night there's like 10 of them I want to play. You mentioned Joel Embiid. I really like him, but the opportunity cost is pretty big at the position. But still, he's under 10K. He's been playing very well. Washington, a great matchup for pretty much any position that you want to look at. So I do like Embiid. I think, I make one lineup on each side. I think one side will have Simmons for me and one side will have Embiid. That way I get exposure to their best two players. I think Andre Drummond's going to be pretty popular over there. on DraftKings. His per minute production has been elite this season. I think a nice pivot away from him is this go with the guy that Beer you brought up earlier, the guy he's facing, Nikola Vucevic. I think the usage is going to be pretty high. Orlando's missing a couple of their guards, and Drummond never really been known for his defense. He's always one of those guys that puts up a lot of empty stats, gets a lot of blocks, but he's not really the guy that is necessarily stopping the opposing center. So I like that quite a bit. Clint Capela looking like our highest owned guy over on DraftKings right now. That surprised me a little bit. He's been playing great. It is a pretty good matchup, so I get it. It's also the highest over there on FanDuel. So do you guys have a strong take on him? Because I wasn't planning on locking him in there.
Let's go to Chop. I mean, he feels a little bit too cheap, but at that kind of ownership with so many options at the position, I mean, you can stay in the same price range. You could spend up a little bit more. Chop, what are your thoughts, sir?
Who are we talking about?
Capela. Looks like it's going to be chalky.
Yeah, all right. Noto was talking so fast, man. I couldn't even.
He's got a lot to do, man. I mean, we're getting some valuable Noto time right now.
We got to get him out of there. Speaking of Noto, where's his twin brother SBK? Man, that guy he was a no-show on our first show.
How do you bail on the OGs, man?
Capela's good, man. He's like finally getting back into the rhythm here of playing, and price tag's creeping up on DraftKings, but he's still fine. It's a good matchup for him. I think he's a pretty good value. I'd play him in cash games and in tournaments, but I don't mind Capela at all.
All right, we had a question, Chop. We'll go to you. This is tournaments on FanDuel. Rashawn Holmes. We're getting a lot of questions about Rashawn Holmes. Holmes or Wendell Carter in FanDuel tournament?
Go, please give me Rashawn Holmes, man. Wendell Carter's like, he's so vanilla that I just, he's not even in my GPP pool. He's just so vanilla. Like if he goes off for 40, fine. I'll move on to the next slate, but he just so rarely does it. I'll pass. Give me Rashawn Holmes. Even coming off of that dud, I think he has so much more upside.
All right, and then Adam wanted to know revenge game from Steven Adams against OKC. Any interest there? We love them narratives. So, Noto, what do you think there?
Narrative is good. The play itself probably not that great. I just think that game's going to be one of the slower pace on the board. I just don't see a ton of upside for him. He's not really priced at a discount either. He's pretty expensive. And as for Holmes, I mean, every time I roster the guy, guaranteed 2,000, 3 minutes every single time. And when I don't, he stays clean. So I don't have him locked in. So everyone out there, fire him up.
Now, Adam also says the middle guy looks like the Hulk, and I can't see who the middle guy is. So am I the Hulk?
I don't think it's me or Chop.
Chop's the Hulk. He's got that green background. That's Chop, the Hulk.
I got a green. Man. Wait a minute. You didn't superimpose anything in my background, Devin?
On my end, you got green. So you're apparently the Hulk. So we'll roll with that. A new nickname for Chop. So, Chop, your thoughts at center here before we try to knock out some questions. Got about 8 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, I concur with what we're saying so far. That top range, you just can't go wrong. Giannis, Embiid, Sabonis. I would throw in Randall. He's priced up so high, though, but I really could see the guy playing 40 to 43 minutes again tonight, and he's crushing. And, there's an outside chance that he gets back in the 60s and maybe Embiid sits the whole fourth quarter due to a blowout and all of a sudden you surge past all those people. But strictly GPP at that price tag. John Collins, GPP guy. I wouldn't mind John Collins. The Boston Miami is a replay of last year's NBA Eastern Conference Finals. I think that could be competitive. Thus, Bam Adebayo's got to be on the board. He's a good play, and other than that, I think I want to stay up near the top in that price range at this position. Outside of Olynyk, but he's more of a power forward for me. But some of the other guys down in the lower range, the value guys, aren't cutting it. So I'm cutting my pool off at Rashawn Holmes basically at 5,900. Anybody below that outside of Kelly Olynyk, but like I said, he's power forward for me. Those other guys, I'll probably pass on.
Chop, your boy Chetty Osman is starting. Does that change anything here for you?
Let me look up how many times Chetty has started in his career, and I could almost guarantee you vast majority of those were duds. So I don't think it changes anything unless we have to get some news with somebody else gets ruled out and he gets more shots.
All right, guys, what we want to do every week, along with what we've done, hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. We want to have a little contest with you guys, a little betting contest. So we're going to give some of our favorite plays. Devin is going to keep track of everything. And going forward, each and every week, we'll have the graphics. So what I need from the chat. Give me your 3 favorite bets, and I'll just throw anything out there just to get your name called on the show. Let's get some good bets in there. I'll pick a few at random. Those will represent you guys in the leaderboard. So we'll keep that going throughout the year. And if you guys can beat, I'll say any of us, but if you beat all 3 of us, we'll send you a hell of a swag package. But we'll figure out some giveaways as we move forward. So I want to hear your favorite bets in the chat, and then we'll do some questions. Let's go to you guys. Chop, favorite bets here for tonight.
I'll start off with my first one, which is Indiana. When I looked last, it was -2. I mean, I've talked them up during the show. It's in my head that I think they're going to have a really good game against Houston. So stands to reason 2 is a pretty low spread. I'm going to take Indiana as my first pick.
All right, Noto, go to you. What do you got?
All right, first pick, I'm going to go the over in the Wizards-Sixers game. I got it at 232. It's up to 234.5 right now, so I don't know which line you guys want to give me. But I really just like the pace of that game. I talked about Sims a lot and Embiid a lot. And then on the opposite side, we didn't even talk about Westbrook averaging a triple-double and averaging it with ease. He's like 12 assists, 11 rebounds per game. You obviously got Bradley Beal, so a ton of firepower in that game if it stays competitive. I like the over.
Derek K, easiest bet in history, says over under 2.5 hats on the next OG Grinders Live. You smashed the over. You're rarely going to see me without a hat. I think these guys, I don't think I've ever seen Noto without a hat, and Chop maybe once or twice. So easiest bet there is. I'm going to be a homer. Bucks fan here at home against the Pistons. Down some guys. So I'm going to go the Bucks. I got a -12. I don't know what that number's sitting at now, but I'll go Bucks -12. Chop, back to you. Let's get your last 2 in there. We'll get things moving here.
Give me under on the Utah, New York, roughly 214.5. Let's call it, is what last I saw. Under on the Utah, New York. I like that one. And give me Toronto as the underdog, +3 against Phoenix. I'm going to take a shot that Toronto gets the ship righted here pretty soon.
I was eyeing that one up. I didn't have the cojones to go Toronto, so I'm glad you threw them in there. But Noto, let's get your last 2 here, and then we'll pull some out of the chat here to compete with us.
All right. I think Orlando's just a much better team than the Cavaliers right now. I know both teams are a little bit shorthanded, but Orlando playing at home, their efficiency numbers look a lot better. So give me them -5.5. And then I will take just give me Milwaukee. I think they're going to smash the Pistons. That line, what's that line currently at? -12.
I saw 12 earlier before we started recording. So I'm going to go. I like Orlando as well. We actually had the chat on the Cavs, so we're going to lock the chat in for Cleveland, Devin. So both Noto and I are on the Orlando side of things. And I'm going to go the over in that Phoenix-Toronto game. Again, couldn't take Toronto, but I do think there'll be some points there. So over for that. All right. Got a few minutes here for some questions. Who is the best value guard if Burks plays? I thought Burks was out. Is that right, Noto?
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, I thought he got ruled out.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, I mean, RJ Barrett was a guy that we brought up. Peyton is always an interesting play. So, yeah. Dean says Smart in, Teague out. So thank you for the update, Dean. I know you're missing the Grinders Live, but you just take a night off, build some lineups. Take it easy there. But thanks for the update. Let's see what other we got. Somebody on the Bulls here in chat. Let's see, Fox Hill. Not a lot of questions. So, guys, final thoughts. Our first episode here of the NBA OGs show. And again, you can join us every Wednesday night. Hopefully we get some smaller slates where we can mix in a little bit more life stuff, more strategy talk. But guys, before we get out of here, Chop, final thoughts here for Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's the first one of many. We'll be back here every Wednesday, guys. You just prepare for this one. It's going to be a very interactive. We want to talk to you guys. That's why we're here, man. There'll be slower nights, less games, and we'll really get a chance to get to know each other on a casual level. Me, you in the chat, and everybody. Other than that, man, I think it went pretty smooth, and we'll be back next week.
Speaking of that, our boy Big T makes an appearance asking about who's got the biggest shaft. Well, somebody called him the Incredible Hulk. So, I mean, I don't know if the Hulk applies there, but I guess we'll find that out down the line. Noto, final thoughts here for Wednesday night.
Yeah, not sure if we'll ever get the answer to that question, Big T. But yeah, thanks for joining us. If you guys have any ideas on things that we could add for like a weekly segment, let us know. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll keep tally of all the bets, and if you guys beat us, then we'll get some prizes out to you. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, guys. We appreciate it. I had a lot of fun with it. We will be doing one more OG's football podcast. So the wild card one is out. You can find that, and we will be doing the divisional one. And again, I'll be joining you every Wednesday night talking NBA hoots. So we appreciate the questions. We appreciate the interaction. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our first NBA show. For Notorious, for Head Chopper, and producer Devin, we appreciate it. Guys, thank you for watching. Good luck tonight.